First of all, I've been getting a couple of questions about, I went to Las Vegas. Mayor hasn't gone to this big national retail conference in probably since Elihu Harris. And as you know, economic development is a key aspect of ending the structural economic problems of the city. And in particular, we know that if people just bought even 25% more products within the city, it'd be worth about $10–11 million for us in sales tax. So I've been really encouraging that, but part of encouraging that is to try to increase the amount of retail in Oakland. So we were able to have quite a few meetings with top retail groups and their executives in Las Vegas. So I think we're going to see some progress over the next year or so in resolving some deals, and we try to highly market our downtown since it's coming up. We're reaching sort of that stage where there's enough density downtown, again, to have downtown retail that it's time to start really approaching these companies. There was a lot of interest, so we'll see. Secondly, as you know, tonight we're having the last of the council's big budget hearings, and I think there might be one more out in the community. I've had them as part of all of my town hall meetings, and we are prepared to answer any questions that you may have on that issue. I just want to remind you that there's 3 scenarios: a budget where we get no contributions from our employees and no parcel tax. The second scenario is if we just get contributions from our employees, which is we've been asking for 10%. And the best scenario, the scenario I'd like to see, is one that we have both contributions from our employees and the parcel tax, and we could pretty much get through without the more drastic cuts either in senior services. The Library Coalition's done a good job of lobbying this week, and the point is that we don't have much money after 5 years of cutting, and all the cuts are going to be pretty painful. On the issue of, well, let me just end with this. So Saturday, I ended my 7 town hall meetings. Over 2,500 people participated. Amazing involvement. These were not just we're talking at you and leaving. These were meetings where people broke down into groups, participated, gave us a lot of ideas. We're going to have a working group meeting this week. We're going to pull together the recommendations from all of the 7 town hall meetings, and we're going to use that to restructure some of the services within the city. So I just wanted to thank everybody. You guys came to cover many of them. I was surprised. And people really came in record numbers out and participated, and we have pages and pages and hundreds of recommendations to go through. So that's it. Not a lot of news this week. I have the chief here because I know there have been different questions. So let me just open it up.
There's been something like 4 homicides in the last 5 days. Curious, you comment on that?
The reality is that when we're looking at homicides, not based just on a week, but if you're just looking at numbers, we're at 40 as compared to 34 last year. So we have an 18% increase. If you went back 7 days, we were 34 compared to 36. So we're trending at about the same level, or theoretically same level as we were last year. But beyond the numbers, these are lives. These are human beings, these are people, and I think in this city, one murder is too much overall. But here's a good incident with Mr. Franklin, who is, by all accounts, a good young man, and my condolences go out to the Franklin family, because it would be heartbreaking for me to send one of my 3 kids to school and they don't make it home and lose their lives. But what I'm told is that we had somewhere close to 50 people in and around that area in that scene, and if I had to put out hue and a cry, is to have people have the courage to stand up, to come in and tell us who did this. Not only are we shifting resources to address violence taking place in our city, but at the same time, we need the community to help to solve these things. And the community has been stepping up. And in this particular case, if we have 50 young people out there, here's an opportunity for them to assist and help, so we're bringing people to justice.
Is there anything that in any way connects these or are they all?
No, not just on these four. It's for the year as a whole. What I've done in going back looking at the analysis, I was worried about the connectivity, where we're having gang-related violence, where large gangs were having conflict with each other. And the vast majority of the violence that we've had in the city this year has not been just gang on gang. It's been people being in the wrong place at the wrong location. It'll be one person versus one person. I think you and I talked about that last week when we were at the news conference.
Chief, does it appear that Mr. Franklin's murder was a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or?
We don't know. We don't have that information at this point, and that's why we're asking for anyone that has any tips, any leads, any clues to call in. Because the reality is that police departments don't solve crimes with a hair in 1 hour like you see off some of the TV shows. How you solve crimes is that someone calls in and tells you a license plate, the information and background. We're out in our nomenclature beating the bushes right now, trying to get clues, information to follow up on that. We don't have the answer to that question yet.
Chief, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because this shooting you just mentioned at broad daylight, the other shooting that we just got surveillance video of was at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and clearly there's a problem with people coming forward. How do you combat that?
Well, I don't think that's the case. We've brought several people into custody of recent times with the citizens stepping up to the plate. Actually, we're seeing just the opposite. I'm seeing the trend of more and more people coming forward. A reality that I was sharing earlier is that with hardcore criminals that we arrest and they put out the mythology of not snitching, they roll over and tell on each other all the time. It's a commonplace. You get them in a room and they'll tell on their mom, their brother, their sister, or tell on anyone not going back. But they say to these young kids out here, the mythology of the street is no snitching. And the problem becomes if you don't share with us who took the life of a Mr. Franklin, who was a good kid coming from a leadership academy, then who's going to be the next? Will it be you? Will it be your sister? Will it be your brother? The trend is that people are coming forward, and I just want them to continue to do that and feel comfortable in doing that.
But that being said, as you said, there was 50 people there, and no one has come forward, right? Or has?
They haven't come forward yet. Doesn't mean that they're not, and my hopes is that they do. And what I'm trying to do at this point in time is put out a hue and cry, because I want them to come forward. I want them to have the courage to stand up to protect other young Mr. Franklins. And I think this issue should inspire this community. This is a young life that was doing well. I was looking at TV this morning, and you had that entertainment show where they sing, and you had one kid who's 16 years old, and he's going on with his life to be a star, and then you had the next story that came up is the loss of life of Mr. Franklin. How sad, how poetic that is. And he had a life, and he had a bright future in front of him. And so this should be an inspiring moment for this city, for this town, for people to take control and start stepping up.
I just wanted to add, we've been working with the superintendent of schools around the issue of violence, and we've been piloting, and we're about to probably next week open the 81st Ave Library. First of all, I should have said and step back. Crime's still going down overall in the city. The one crime that's going up is murders. Had a huge bump at the beginning of the year, and now we're down to about 20% or 18% over last year. So I'm still hopeful that we can bring down the violence. Last year we had a record low number of murders for the city. It was the first time that we're under 100 in 7 or 8 years. And so I'm hoping that we can keep the trend going this year, even though it's up at the beginning of the year. It's begun to come down, except for now this week. So there are a lot of things that we could do. So I want to underscore what the chief said. There are a lot of kids who were around when this incident happened. We need people to come forward and ID who did the shooting. We also need to try to give young people in the city hope, and we need to, there was an interesting show, I don't know if you guys listened to other media, KQED did the whole show this morning on murders and the fact that they're beginning to come down in some cities, and all the chiefs talked about how that was related to having better relationships with the community, and that's one of the things we're trying to build, better relationships with the community, particularly with young people. We've been working closely with the superintendent of schools and the school police to make sure that officers visit schools, that we're recruiting our own young people to be cadets and explorers and to recruit them to the police force, and start starting about next week. We're going to be opening, we've been opening up gyms and youth centers late on Friday and Saturday nights. The school district did a study to show that most of the young people who are public school students who were murdered or hurt were hurt on Friday and Saturday nights. So we're trying to reach out to community, to reach kids on those nights, to give them safe alternative places to be. And we are working hard, I think, with parents. Although this probably was not gang-related, we've been working hard now that the fight over the injunction seems to be clear, to move on with the other prevention things around gangs. We've been trying to continue our parent education around gangs. We're going to resume what has been very effective, which is a call-in program, to call in kids on probation and to meet with them, to let them know we're watching them, but also offer them alternative resources. And I think if we pull together as a community, we can still end this year even lower than last year.
Mayor, to that point, the summer's coming up, and I was just wondering, is there any kind of crime prevention things going in place as the summer,
Well, it's an uphill fight right now. As you know, we just learned about a month ago in the compromise in the federal government that one of the programs that were cut was the Mayor's Summer Jobs Program, which is a national program that typically would have hired 500 young people. I just finished sending a letter out to all the companies and corporations in Oakland and asking them to please consider taking a young person this summer. Often people will add to that program, but this year they will be the program. I'm looking at my own budget to see what money I have to maybe provide a lower internship to get young people off the street. I'm seriously thinking in the 3 beats that I've adopted, they're very, very, very tough beats, to see if I can take some kids off the street and take them up to our city-run camp this summer. I think, it's a community. What these experts are saying is young people have to have hope, and when young people have hope, crime seems to go down a little bit, violence seems to go down a little bit. So I would urge the community to reach out to young people, particularly young men, offer them jobs, work with them as mentors. We're trying to get more of our officers out in the streets to meet young people too. I think there's no simple solution. I think we have to do a lot of different things. I'm just, until this week, I was beginning to feel a little bit of relief that that we had this big rash of murders at the beginning of the year that I think were more gang related, and then they started going down, and then we had this rash this week. So it's a constant struggle to try to reach out to people and give them other alternatives.
All of these young men, particularly Mr. Franklin, was by all accounts a good kid. He never had any run-ins with the police. I think a couple of months ago, Chris Jenkins was killed from Castlemont student. I don't think he had any kind of run-ins with the police. So we're talking about kids who are not kind of out on the streets in need of mentors. I mean, they're already on a good path. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But yet, something happens like what happened yesterday. I mean, what do you tell parents who are basically saying, look, my kids aren't out on the streets, they're doing what they're supposed to do, and you still, they're not safe. I mean, what are we as a city going to do kind of moving forward, as he says, going into the hot summer months?
I think that's one of the things that we've been looking at for a while. I think the points that you bring up are very germane, which is that a person just walking down the street, and this is not the first time that this has happened in the city. As I walked into the city 19 months ago, I was taken as I did my research on how sometimes people are affected by crime. It's even with Mr. Yu, if you reflect 2 blocks away from here, where he was walking down the street with his son, and they were socked in the face. And you can't always explain the randomness of this violence that takes place. Mr. Hughes wasn't even from the city, he just happened to be here. What we're doing in the police organization is making sure that we are looking to put more police officers in the ingress routes of the students as they come and go from school to make sure that they're safe. But as you're saying, school's going to be out here in less than a month. And so the issue does become, like the mayor is sharing, that the city is moving together to establish programs to keep kids' hands are active. But the other reality is that you just have some people, and not just in this city, but in all cities, that are, for lack of a bad term, bad actors. And that's our responsibility, that we have to go out and root them out, and we have to also address them. You can deal with mentoring programs. That takes care of the vast majority of all kids. Most kids are good. Most of our residents in the city are good people. But you have a 5% or you have an 8%, and that's where it becomes that we have good intelligence, that we do an outstanding job learning information from people and going out and rooting out these people so they don't take a life like Mr. Franklin's or take a life like Mr. Jenkins. Those are severe impacts, though, that we have to continue to do a better job. We had a reduction last year in crime, not only because the citizens did a great job in supporting us and community policing is growing, but you also had diligent police officers going out there doing a lot of great police work that brought people to justice who are wanted, and that's what we need now, and we need the assistance.
So as you reorganize the department, do you foresee that there will be more officers on the streets, and do you think that's a priority?
Well, the reorganization is not going to be a panacea to fix all the things that are going on. What we're trying to do is reconstruct the organization. As I walked in the door, we're at 803, and today we're at 642, and next year we're budgeted for 640. So we're trying to reconstruct the organization to meet that number. What we're doing is simplifying the organization. We're trying to move away from being such a specialized police department to one that is more generalist, to expand the role of officers that are in patrol. We are shifting numbers to go back to patrol. We have done that from the beginning. As my team got together, when I walked in the door, we sent 36 bodies down to patrol. And so this is a continuation along those lines. But as we reorganize, it's still, as the mayor says, is that we need community engagement. Part of what we're doing is having every officer, even the ones that we have now today, get out of their police cars at least 4 hours a day to make contact with the community so people feel confident that this organization is responding.
Chief, could you talk about the summer coming to, any like deployment kind of changes or for the summer?
Well, we never share deployment numbers. We don't put those out. But the reality is that we put together 60 to 90-day plans. And knowing that the summer is a busy time of year for us, especially going into usually late July and more so August through September, it becomes very busy for us. We have put the plans together to focus our resources, but the critical piece is not just deployment, it's just not numbers. The critical piece is having intelligence and putting police officers in the spots where you have the potential issues. And we're working very diligently to be a more professionally run organization, that we go at the hot spots. We're not going to go out and arrest large numbers of minorities or take people to jail, but we're focusing on those people that we know have caused crime and that continue to cause problems.
So you have got a summer plan, so to speak?
We have a plan every 30 to 60 days. We put together an operation plan on what we're going to do in the next coming cycle. Yes, we do.
In addition to that, you know that in our merchant areas, we've been organizing the merchants to work with us in partnership to increase the number of security cameras. So when he talked about the murder in Chinatown, the reason we were able to catch the murder so quickly is that the merchants had just finished putting cameras along all the streets, and about a month ago they expanded that to the playground nearby. The Latino merchants actually came to a dinner last weekend, I think, and had taken a tour of what Chinatown had done, and that was what was already in process and planning when Chuy Campos was killed. He was actually on the committee. So the other thing that the community is doing, that the merchants are stepping up, is increasing security cameras in all of our merchant areas so that people, at least in those zones, will feel pretty safe and free, because a lot of times people go to those areas to catch the ladies with the shopping bags and the purses, but what's happening is, I think the whole community is getting better organized. We have National Night coming out, and I'm hoping we'll have a record number. Neighborhoods, I think, have in Oakland have organized more and more, and literally my theme has been organizing block by block. Out in East Oakland, in the beat that I had adopted, they had not been able to get their neighborhood crime council going, and I hear now they're having pretty much an average of 20 people coming out and starting to organize that beat. And so I know I'm going to the next meeting. We're going to discuss about what we're going to do with young people over the summer, how we can both watch out for them and get them involved in new activities. So I've been working like with the Housing Authority and other, again, churches and other groups to have more activities, get the kids off the streets. A lot of times the innocent bystanders are hanging out in corners where there's drug dealing or or just happen to be passing by. And I really just want to get kids off the street. I want to beg the parents in this city, don't let your kids just hang out randomly in the streets. There are a lot of activities in the city. Help us open up your churches and other activities in the evenings and the afternoons. But have something for your kids to do this summer. Don't just let them hang out.
How will City Attorney Russo's June 10th departure date change the fate of gang junctions in the city?
I don't think it's going to, I mean, the courts will decide the final number. The council has agreed that they're not going to expand it at this point. We're going to see how, North Oakland was a very small group of people. Half the people were arrested before even the injunction went into place. We'll still have to evaluate whether or not the kids just moved out of the area or but we know it did buy North Oakland some peace. Whether it moved the kids out or to another neighborhood, that's another issue. We're still waiting for what the court will decide. I'm frankly hoping to maybe get people to the table. I don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars more. I think they've only gone through 3 kids of the 40. At this rate, we could spend another couple $1 million, which I could have used this summer to put them all to work instead. It's clear we have to get out of this sort of nuclear legal warfare. And I don't want that to be interpreted as a la Chip Johnson, that I don't support injunctions. When you have a particular person, particular area, injunctions are always justified. The fact that this is now, you have paid so much attention to it, the community is paying so much attention to it, it's almost sucked up all the oxygen. We're not able to get our other regular gang prevention programs out there because of the divisions now in the community and because we all have to spend so much time talking about the injunctions.
Sure. I do just want to ask, what was the rationale behind the meeting with Ruben Leal and Michael Muscadini on Tuesday night?
I don't know rational. I don't even know their names. My husband met some young people and brought them in, introduced me to them. We said hi. They told me a little bit about themselves, and that was it.
So this question is be answered by either of you. In an effort to deter crime around schools, the city of Richmond enacted what they call a gun-free zone.
We've already done that.
So the city of Oakland has gun-free zones, meaning if you get caught using a gun in a certain area around the school, it's an enhanced crime.
Yeah. It's a state law, too. The thing about schools, schools are a little something I do know a little bit about. We could use more parents and adult volunteers on campuses. It makes them safer, right? Because mostly what's unfair to the Oakland Public Schools, they spend a huge amount of money keeping their school perimeters free. So in the city of Oakland, I think they spent $11 million on school security. Pleasanton and suburban school districts don't have to spend that kind of money. And what's been happening, I know over the years as funding's been cut, parents have stepped forward and volunteers have stepped forward, basically to try to develop neighborhood agreements that schools are safe zones and neutral zones. And that's often worked in the past. And as I start working with the school district and we plan our neighborhood safety conference for the fall, I'm going to try to get people to participate and volunteer at schools to keep them safe and neutral.
My understanding is that Brown's Mayor Revise has backed off of the getting rid of enterprise zones entirely.
Yes, absolutely. The enterprise zones are safe. We talked about that last week, and we're working now on a compromise around redevelopment.
Have you gotten any impression of the bill 231, which apparently...
Is that the right bill?
Yes.
Yes. There are going to be amendments to the right bill as they try to make that maybe the basis of negotiations. Very similar to what actually I proposed to Jerry at our first meeting of the Big Ten, is to give the schools a little bit more of the tax increment. And then if you want to make some reforms around some of the abuses that other cities, usually mostly small cities, have been engaged in, they could add that to that, and that sort of seems to be where they're going. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.